Hey guys, welcome to Cold Film and Review, the podcast where we discuss the films you love, but no one else gets, and we see if they still hold up. Tonight, we're headed into deep space on a rescue mission. The only question is, who's going to rescue us? Because tonight we're talking about Event Horizon. So let's just start the show.
Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex?
Klopex. Klopek.
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, guys, so we're here to talk about Event Horizon tonight. But before we do that, I just want to say a couple of things real quick. Please head over to iTunes, rate us 5 stars. We really appreciate it. Leave us a review. If you do, we're going to give you a shout out at the end of the episode. I don't believe we have any today after our record week last week. People must be just fatigued.
We don't. I double checked.
Yeah, thank you. People might be just fatigued.
Fatigued from leaving reviews.
they're probably tired, you know? It happens.
All this thumb action they're doing, you know, typing these reviews.
We also just want to give a quick shout out to the Phoenix Film Festival and the Sci-Fi International Horror Film Festival for having us out. Thank you, Montiazzi, for putting up with all of Chris's bullshit throughout the weekend. We really appreciate that.
Thanks, Monty.
He was very difficult.
He was in rare form.
He was rare.
Yeah,
he was.
he
He definitely was.
Chris is normally the most chill of all of us, and
But
Yeah.
this week he was just throwing the hammer down.
I got
wherever he
anxious. I'm sorry.
the hammer of Thor upon the fucking poor people at the office.
That's what it is.
Sorry, guys.
All right, guys. So we're here to talk about Oh, wait, one more thing. I almost forgot. Go to our YouTube channel. We now have a YouTube channel where you can hear the first 50 terrible episodes of Cult Film and Review.
Why are you gonna?
I would say
Why,
the
are you,
first-
why are you selling it like
No,
that?
The first 25.
When we didn't know what we were doing.
Well, that's damn true. I would say what first 15
Well,
minutes.
I know.
There's
I
some
think
gems
I
in
think
there.
first 25 is a good
It gets
call
good.
because that's like the first 6 months basically.
But if you want to see the evolution
yeah,
of Cult Film and
or
Review
hear it, I suppose
from our infancy to what is now is probably our adolescence, where we'll stay. Let's be honest. I would go check us out. Check out our earlier
You know
episodes.
what, Mike? There's nothing wrong with being a late bloomer.
What's that?
I said there's nothing wrong with being a late bloomer.
Yeah, I didn't get my first pube until 21.
Till episode 25.
Now we're full bush now.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're talking about Event Horizon, not Michael's Bush. It was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, came out in 1997, had a budget of $60 million, made 27 in the box office, so huge hit. It was filmed in the U.S. and UK, and currently sits with a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's about a rescue crew that investigates a spaceship
A very special ship.
that disappeared into a black hole and has now returned with someone or something new on board. As always, I am joined by Kyle Smith,
Hey, how's it going?
Chris Willenbrecht,
What's up?
and Michael Salustio.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
This was my pick. We're doing this in the morning, and we don't usually do this in the morning, so
That's why we're so giddy.
enjoy.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Cody, why did you pick this film?
Well, thank you for asking. No, I picked this film essentially as a fan pick. A friend of mine that I went to high school with said that he recently watched this film and that we should record an episode about it. So I said sure. And then like immediately after I said sure and I picked this film, we got another request for it from one of your friends, Kyle.
Yeah, the movie's popping right now.
So
Popping.
huge resurgence happening for Event Horizon right now.
You know what? Maybe they'll re-release in theaters. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know. And it's Lawrence Fishburne, maybe something with that. I don't know. Sam Neill. We don't know.
None of them are in anything that's current, so I don't know if that's it.
Who knows? Maybe people are longing for them, so they're going back and watching the Event Horizon.
They're longing for the good old days in the 90s.
Who has not seen this movie before? Has everybody seen this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so when was the first time that you came across the Event Horizon, Kyle?
It would be when it was first released on VHS, because I remember we got it from the video store, and I know like me and my brothers all sat down and watched it, and I just remember it scaring me. I remember having some good scares to it and stuff, but I mean, beyond that, I don't remember much else of it.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, it was on. I think it was on like HBO or Showtime late at night. I happened to stumble across it, and I remember it scaring me as well.
Mike?
I saw this in theaters.
Mike was true. He was diehard, bro.
Yeah, I want to say it was me and my brother because my brother and I, we talk about it all the time. We still talk about this fucking film sometimes.
Really?
About like how it scared us. Yeah.
And that is the conversation you usually go, why did that scare us?
Maybe we'll get to that later on. We'll get to that later on, Kyle.
Well, it's definitely one of my favorite genres of films, where it's like spaceship horror. I don't like. It's sci-fi horror, it is, but like I just like ones that take place on spaceships.
I think that genre is called the 90s.
I don't know.
No, it started in the 80s with like Alien and.
That's true. Like, I mean, I liked the whole hell in outer space thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just the idea, the setting of space being this vast void that you don't know what's out there. It could be anything out there, you know? That and deep space horror or deep ocean horror.
Yeah.
That's a new thing that needs to happen.
I agree.
Finding
that needs to
devils
come
way
back.
deep in the abyss.
Deep space horror or
Yeah.
deep ocean horror. Which
Either one. I mean, they're
Okay.
both like these vast. The idea of putting something in a black void, and because you don't know, it could be anything.
Right.
But when you find the devil or whatever this is supposed to fucking be,
Yeah.
it's frightening. It's a great setting for that.
I will say I appreciated that they didn't go the route of aliens because I mean that's what you would assume going into it is like, oh, they found aliens or
Right.
something, but it's something demonic and darker. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's definitely something. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what
not
the
sure if they
hell
ever
it
wrapped
is.
that up.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell it is. You know, like,
You know what? It's the other side.
you know what it is? Is it won't let you leave.
That's true.
It won't let you
it's
leave.
She won't let you leave.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They keep referring to the ship as a she.
I think that's a
That's a
common
common,
thing
yeah.
in like
Yeah.
nautical thing, right?
I think the name Event Horizon is cool. I always liked that.
It's a real thing. It's
a real term.
scientific term.
It
means-
is?
it's the
Yeah.
edge of a black hole.
Yeah.
Oh, it just had a nice ring. I thought.
So it's something like the edge
It's
of
the edge
what
it's the edge
is
of a black hole.
observable
Yeah.
to the naked eye
Huh.
in space or some bullshit. I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sure the scientists out there that listen to our show will correct us. All the physicists, the astrophysicists out there.
That listen to our show.
Yeah. Fans.
Fans that listen to it that are scientists. No, I'll tell you when I first saw this film too. I think that's what kind of drew me to it was just definitely the genre of it, but also the poster art is something. Just the ship itself, it like in stormy space. like,
But yeah, going back to this, the astrophysicist thing. If an astrophysicist watches this film, he must be like shaking his head like, what the fuck?
Well, here's the thing.
Things don't explode in space. Where are all these sounds fucking coming from?
Here's the thing. Like, you say stormy space, and that's what the poster art was, but I mean, when the black hole finally gets open, it opens it like on the planet, and it gets sucked into the planet that the thing's floating next to. So it doesn't even open a black hole in space. It like cuts a hole through the planet and goes through that. Like,
Well, when they first
Why did they do that?
When they first find the Event Horizon, they have to go through some crazy ass like electrical storm or something.
They do.
right?
well,
Yeah.
because it's like floating in like the upper atmosphere of the planet.
Yeah, of Neptune, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Neptune.
I think it was Neptune.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't they say like
Which is
past
like
the ninth-
everyone knows, like that's the planet that you just don't go to.
Don't go, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the south side of Chicago
Yeah.
of planets. You just don't go to it.
You don't
know?
cross. You don't cross the tracks of Mars.
Yeah,
Simple
you
as
just
that.
Don't do it. You just don't do it.
I don't go to any space because I'm a land creature.
I don't
Oh,
go
me
to.
too. I'm scared of the fucking ocean. So
See, I think that's
not
why.
gonna go to
That's
space.
I think why I like latch onto these movies so much because I just love the idea of just being on a spaceship traveling like
Yeah.
the universe and just. You don't. And that is like part of the scary thing
I
too.
would
Is like
totally
you don't
do
know
it.
what the hell's out there and like where are you going to run into?
I would totally do it.
Have
Oh,
you ever
so would
been?
I.
Okay, have you ever been there? Like, if you go to, I think it's San Diego, they have like a submarine you can go on. Like you,
Are you talking about the Disney park ride?
not the 10,000 Leagues on the
Are
Sea.
you talking about the Jurassic Park
The
ride?
yellow-
Is
the
that-
yellow
are you
submarine?
getting,
Finding Nemo now.
are you getting Sam Neill movies confused? Or are you talking about
Yeah.
the Jurassic Park ride?
Yeah, Jurassic Park, right?
Okay, well that's at Universal.
Yeah, that's
So
what-
now you're getting your theme parks mixed up.
Maybe I'm wrong, but there's definitely somewhere in California there's actually like a submarine you can go on, and you can go down into like what it's like to be on a fucking submarine.
Yeah, I've been
is,
in it.
it is not a fun experience. It is tight and it's close knit, and the idea that you're surrounded.
Yeah, but this was a
By
big
nothing.
ship. This was like going into space in a cruise ship.
But here's something that it must be kind of odd, or it might fuck with your equilibrium at some extent, right? We're so used to hearing sounds outside of shit, like being underneath in a submarine where it's just fucking dead silence. Like everything out there is just like a black,
Right.
like there's nothing out there. Space must be fucking worse.
I see that as peaceful.
Oh man, I don't
Not
know.
me.
I see
Not
that as
me.
peaceful. Like I went skydiving once, and the one thing that I definitely remember was like once you pop the parachute open, it's dead silent up there, and you're just floating.
You don't hear like wind?
You hear like a little bit of breeze going past your ears, but it's like the thing that I remember the most was the amount of silence, and I thought it was peaceful. I'm with you, Cody. We're going to space.
We're going to space.
I think
going to space.
I imagine space travel is.
I wanted to go to
very
space camp so fucking bad as a
taxing.
kid.
You don't go to space in space camp.
I know, but
There
I
was
wanted
one
to go.
thing that threw me off a little bit about this at the beginning of this film. So they're on a spaceship trying to get to the Event Horizon.
Yes.
And when they finally get to the Event Horizon, the whole fucking ship that they're on catches on fire. But all they have to do is repair some hole on the outside of the ship and everything works fine. Or supposedly works fine. They're going to get back. But I was like, what the fuck? Like, all this equipment inside is, like, burning. Like, how is this even possible?
Technology's way advanced at
Yeah.
this point, Chris.
Maybe the fire extinguishers
Really?
they were using like repair wires
Yeah,
as well.
Because I
It's
feel
like-
like if one thing went wrong on a spaceship, like, that's a huge problem.
We're on fire.
You know
on the
what?
Inside.
You know what? It was for the Event Horizon.
That's true.
It is a weird thing, but it goes back to like even Star Trek. Anytime I watch like old Star Trek, it's like they get hit with something and the whole goddamn thing shakes, which is probably some cameraman just moving the thing. But
I'm
like
sure.
you'll see like a chunk of the ship kind of like like a girder fly down, and you're like, okay, is that how this works? Like this thing seems like it's made of fucking paper mache. What's going on here? I just don't imagine that that's how. I don't know. First of all, I think the physics in this movie are all fucked up.
They are, but then it's when you unplug your brain and just go on for the ride.
No, I know.
You know,
There's
you
a
don't-
suspension of
you know.
disbelief that you should have when
You
you're
don't
watching
really,
any
you don't really
space movie.
focus on that. But I have another question with the beginning of the film, but we'll get to that when we come right back.
Imagine for a minute that this piece of paper,
excuse me. That's Vanessa, and that's mine.
attractive piece of paper, represents space-time, and you want to get from point A here to point B there. Now, what's the shortest distance between 2 points?
A straight line.
Wrong. The shortest distance between 2 points is 0, and that's what the gateway does. It folds space so that point A and point B coexist in the same space and time. When the spacecraft passes through the gateway, space returns to normal. It's called a gravity drive.
How do you know all this?
I built it.
And we're back. We're talking about Event Horizon from 1997. This is a fan pick. Thank you guys for picking this film, or thank me for picking this film for you.
So weird. Or you thank me.
No, so the one thing that I'm just questioning it with the beginning of the film is the Event Horizon just popping back? Does that cause an instant connection between it and Sam Neill's Dr. Weir's character?
What do you mean?
Like, because he has that dream of his wife with no eyes, right? And she was on the Event Horizon.
No, she wasn't.
No.
Then what
No.
the fuck is her thing?
So her thing is Sam Neill's character is like, I assume, a manic depressive type, and he's just really haunted by the fact that his wife committed suicide. And what we see at the beginning is kind of his normal thing. He's like always looking at the bathtub and shit. But when he gets on the Event Horizon, because the Event Horizon plays off your fears, it just amplifies that to, an umpteenth degree. Is that even a thing I just said?
Umpteenth?
Sure, you
Yeah.
can say umpteenth. It's
Yeah,
not a word,
sure, why
but,
not?
but hey, go ahead.
A lot.
It's a thing.
That's what I say, a lot. So that's what I think was happening. Like, I think he was already very depressed and kind of shattered by the fact that found his wife's
But he's
suicide or
definitely
whatever.
linked. They definitely make a point in the movie, I feel like, to show that him and the ship are linked.
Well, he's the
Because
father
he's
of
the
the
creator.
ship. That's his baby, and you know, I imagine that whatever sentient being that fucking took control of this thing is like, if I'm going to target anybody, it's going to be this guy because he wants to know why. Nobody else on that fucking on the Lewis and Clark wants to go back to this. They're against it from the get-go. Like, here we go again. It's our weekend off, and they're taking us to deep space to find some bullshit that, you know, 2 times like people have died or something, they say. He's the only one that's dedicated to go out there. And I imagine if the ship was trying to get more people there, he's the guy to target. He's the one to go after.
Oh.
If it can speak across space. Because that was the thing I was trying to figure out. Going back to your question, I don't think that moment, if you're talking about like the dream as being the moment that it pops back into their space.
That's what he was saying.
Or is that you said that?
Cody was saying that.
I don't think that timeline matches. I mean, they don't really say it.
Yeah.
But I imagine he's already aware of the mission, already aware the ship is out there by the time he's woken up.
Yeah.
Yeah, waking up. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I was saying that like what he was seeing is something that he's already experienced a bunch of times before, which is, you know, just, you know, thinking about his wife who committed suicide. And you know what? My brain just blew up here. I'll tell you why, Cody.
Watch out, then.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because the whole reason his wife committed suicide was because of the amount of work he put into the Event Horizon. So now that the Event Horizon has been discovered, it's bringing back all these old memories. And one of which is his wife committing suicide because of the Event Horizon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he was never there, and so she became depressed, I would assume, and killed herself. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you're making a sweet ass spaceship like that, I'll tell you what, man. That's one of the things that has stuck with me with this movie for a very long time. Is just the design of that ship.
I think it's cool.
It's cool as fuck.
It does look like a Klingon warbird.
It does, but it's still still cool as hell. Still really cool.
I thought it was okay. I didn't really think it was that awesome.
I just loved the massive scale of it.
Yeah. I mean, for some reason, I don't know, maybe I'm just like nitpicking, but the fact that it said Event Horizon so huge on the ship, I was kind of like, is that a thing? Like,
yeah. Well,
they do that on all ships.
I gotta imagine. I gotta imagine that's because
the Enterprise has like fucking USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
I don't watch.
I mean, like current, you know, like cruise ships or sailboats and shit. They always fucking name it and they put it on the front. That's how you can identify it when it crashes.
They put it on the back. They put it on the back, but
or the front. You put it wherever the hell you want, Cody. There's no rules.
How many people are in the Coast Guard?
Me.
Just let this guy.
I'll let him have it. I'll let him have it.
But no, I don't mind the name because I would the way I look at it is this is a huge monumental project because they basically had figured out how to travel through a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a huge deal in man, basically, like in science and everything.
Yeah.
And then it just turns out Pinhead was hanging out in the black hole. Ready to dress up like Sam Neill.
Here's the thing that bothers me about this whole thing, okay? So they don't really mention it. It would have been a scene I would have liked to have seen, right?
The puzzle box?
No. Yeah, the puzzle box that somehow has obviously behind this black hole at some point. No. Okay, so I got the impression that this was like the first test run of this goddamn fucking black hole drive. But wait a second. That's not something that scientists generally do. It's not like, hey, we built a ship. We've never tested this supersonic jet before, but let's put a fucking man in it.
That's what they do.
That's what they do in this.
No, that's what they do in real life.
They have to test it, like, try to shoot things generally.
They do, like, computer models, you know. They run it a bunch of times, and they might test fire an engine off a plane.
Mike
but
wants to open a black hole
on
Earth.
Flight is, like, a test pilot.
What I'm saying is, why isn't there a test, like, put a chimpanzee and then send it into a black hole and see if it shows back up on the other side without a devil in it?
And that's how Congo was made.
Because with this, you got to build a ship to do it, right? Anyways, because what are you gonna? You can't just open a black hole up on Earth and then throw a chimp in it and then watch it pop out.
Well, apparently you can open a black hole next to a planet.
Yeah,
and not
Neptune. Who gives
destroy
a fuck
the
about
fucking
Neptune?
They open it on Earth. That's how Doom 2 happens.
Yeah,
you don't do that.
Right, but what I'm saying is what I'm saying is like they didn't test this thing at all. It was like this is the first time we've ever even fired this thing off. Let's put a crew of 9 on it. and see if they come out and not die.
Well,
and I love how the crew is just so fucking
They're
like,
dude,
happy about
they're
it. Like,
test,
can't
they're
wait to
test
go.
pilots. Test pilots die all the time. Knowing
understand
that they're
that.
getting in something that's probably going to blow up
But
under
like
their
you said,
ass.
they test to see if the fucking engine is not going to explode before they put them on it.
Yeah,
This
how do
one,
we-
it seems like it
we
was the
don't-
first time they'd ever even
Why-
decided to click the on switch.
Why are we arguing about this? We're arguing about something that could have happened anyway.
I just wanted to see some chimpanzees with some devils in them, Kyle.
Some possessed chimpanzees.
Okay,
That would have made. I think I would have made for a better movie.
We get to the meat of Mike's argument.
So when we're in space, we find out that the Lewis and Clark is basically they were supposed to be off. We're on a rescue mission now, or
It's
for
basically the
ship.
plot of Clerks.
All right.
It was their
Keep going,
day off.
Cody.
They weren't even supposed to be there. That day.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this is. No, I'm like, cool, where is he seeing Clerks in this? They don't even talk about the Death Star. This is so
Start to
confusing.
suckety dick on the way to the Event Horizon.
I wish that was all Lawrence Fishburne kept saying. Was I wasn't even supposed to be here today. All throughout the fucking film.
Well, no, this was like his pre-screener to playing Morpheus. This was his tryout for Morpheus.
Most of the cast. is
Yeah.
in this. A lot of the cast shows up in Matrix.
Like, even the set design felt Matrixy. I wonder,
Yeah.
like with
A
the
lot of green.
A lot of green going on. And that
no, I
weird.
meant, like the captain's chair in the Lewis and Clark is very reminiscent to the
That
captain's.
fucking
Stupid.
made me laugh so goddamn much in this movie. Like anytime he was in the captain's chair, it was just he's like hit the button and it like was real time.
I know, dude. Every time he was in it, he looked like his legs were smashed together, like he was like in a wheelchair or something. Like,
And he would turn around and be like, "What's the status of the ship? Everything's 5-5 or whatever. Good." Real time. And then he gets up and goes downstairs. Like, why did we have to watch him pivot in a chair?
it costs a lot of money to make that, Kyle.
pretty
Yeah,
funny.
Kyle, we're just gonna throw that away.
Some set designer was so proud of that shit. It's like, look, it actually fucking works.
No, it's so Morpheus is basically the captain of the ship. So we're in with that. I actually really this is one of those things where it's and I have this question down. Is one of the reasons that this movie is held with a lot of people in high regard because the cast. Because I feel like the cast is a lot better than the director and maybe even the movie itself.
I would agree with that. I mean, there's only one cast member that I thought was just kind of weak and flat was what was his name? Was it Cooper?
Well, Cooper's Richard T. Jones.
Is he the one that gets fired off into space
Yeah.
and he blasts? I thought he was the weakest thing in this film next to Sam Neill.
He was
Yeah,
the
I
comic
think-
relief, though.
Yeah.
He wasn't that good
Yeah,
of
he
comic
wasn't
relief.
very-
The rest of the cast were like solid. They knew I felt like they knew who their character was and they stayed in that thing. I just felt like his character was just a little too wacky and over the top for the tone of the film.
No, he was the Hudson.
Hudson. No.
I agree. I think that the cast is pretty good, except for actually Sam Neill for me is actually the weakest link in this entire
Really?
film.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really.
I don't feel that way.
Strongest guys: Lawrence Fishburne and Sean
Well,
I
Pertwee.
was
No.
I'm gonna disagree with
Lawrence
you.
Fishburne's so good in this.
I don't think he was that good. I
Lawrence
really don't. I
Fishburne?
think he was kind of flat. I think he was kind of
I
flat.
think Sam Neill's entire whole thing is just he doesn't really have a lot of emotion.
No.
No, the
Even in
only,
Jurassic
the
Park, it's
only
just like,
scene
oh,
that
nice.
that Sam Neill does that I think is cool because I think it's actually just interesting is when he's explaining to them how the black hole works. Like, and he's like giving them the brief on what the Event
that's
Horizon does. And I was like, okay, this is kind of like, well, this is just an interesting conversation.
I'm not gonna
to
lie.
watch.
I think you're onto something. I think that Sam Neill's entire fucking career at this was Jurassic Park. Him explaining dinosaur shit.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, they were just like, "Can you just like explain stuff in science terms?" Okay, well, it's
Intelligent
really hard for me
monologues.
to explain this. But
Well, no,
first off,
I really like that scene too. I just think because it reminds me of Alien, like when everybody's like around the table eating and having the conversation before the alien rips out. Like it's pretty much ripped from that, but they're explaining. So,
Yeah.
like Paul W.S. Anderson, he steals from a lot of movies with this movie.
yeah, he does.
Definitely Alien. Definitely Space Odyssey. Hellraiser.
Mhm.
Like there's quite a few that he he borrowed from.
It's the only thing he gets right about space was like the opening scene where he's on the ship and he's upside down.
I hated
and then
that
they
scene.
spin it around to like show that like there's no up and down in space. It's all relative.
Right.
And, you know,
I was like, who opens their movie with like motion sickness? I was like getting nauseous watching that, like
Paul
the
at
spinning.
WS
I was like,
Then you saw that sweet ass floating CGI cup, and you forgot about everything.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, that's why this movie felt like it wanted to be 3D because like Mike had mentioned, everything is always coming at you, at the camera, like floating. Like they really doubled down on that.
I had a wondering thing too, because
wondering thing.
Yeah, a wondering thing. In the beginning of the movie, you remember when they get to the Event Horizon and they have like all that floating liquid?
Yeah.
What is that? It's
coolant.
Coolant, right?
Yeah, coolant
That's
leak.
what they say it is.
Yeah.
But did they ever find like a coolant leak?
No, the lake underneath it.
That's
underneath the
was
core.
coolant. Yeah, that's the coolant.
I see, because I was wondering if that, because what happens is when Baby Bear gets sucked into the portal, the black
Right.
hole, and then disappears, and then there's that big shockwave explosion that rips the ship apart, the Lewis and Clark apart. I was wondering if that was actually like black matter from
No, because it was a different color. The stuff that was
it was like
the stuff
black
that was
gold.
floating when
It
they
was like
first
black
got
gold.
in there was
because it
like,
spread it all over the
looked,
ship.
It looked like gasoline or like that, but the stuff that he touches in the black was just like pure oil.
I have a
like.
question about to somebody who might be more mechanically inclined. Coolant, is
Yeah.
it flammable?
Is
It
coolant
seems
flammable?
the
Yes.
opposite of what a coolant should be.
No, yes, extremely flammable. Extremely.
Is it? No,
on
are
the,
you
on
serious?
on the Event Horizon, it is
Fuck
extremely
yeah, it is. That's what-
flammable.
Every time I see that scene where everything's on fire and shit, I'm always like, isn't this whole room covered in coolant? Like, how is this? How is it
but
combustible?
that was phantom flames.
Those are phantom flames.
Yeah, it
Those
was.
are all in his head.
Those are ghost flames.
Okay, sure, sure.
Oh, ghost flames.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? What is that? What are you talking about?
No, that the fire that like that. If you're referring to the fire that like Lawrence Fishburne's character sees, is wait, did I say his name right?
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne.
Jesus Christ, my
You can
brain
call him
just-
Larry too. He's been credited as that.
He goes by Larry.
But the flames he sees when he sees his old friend on fire is like it's a manifestation of like the evil spirit. So it's not real, but it is real.
But
so
also, like enough
the
to
Matrix?
burn you
Shut
in real
up.
life because
right, but I don't think we should be looking at like the
That's 'cause it's in your mind,
chemical
dude.
makeup of coolant and saying it shouldn't be on fire.
doesn't
I think
it catch
it's
on
just
fire before that? Though?
there are demons on this ship. Everything's out the window, Mike.
I keep going, trying to go back to reality.
Yeah,
I just
you're
got-
not in reality.
I
You're
should
in the event
I should
horizon.
abandon this, just like they abandoned the Event Horizon.
No, I
At
think
least try to.
one of the things that I thought this movie did really good is build suspense.
Yes.
One of the things that I think that Paul W.S. Anderson got right with this film, which is he every once in a while he hits a home run. You got to give him that. It was the suspense though. Like the build up to a lot of stuff was actually scarier than what the scary things were.
Yeah, I agree with that. My favorite scene in this movie that scares me is when Samuel's going through the green corridors, the little tunnels and shit, and he's fixing the little circuit board. And then all of a sudden, all the lights start flashing on and off and shit, and he's like panicking. Like I was panicking with him. I'm like, "What the fuck? What the fuck's gonna happen?" And it's, I've seen this movie before, but it still made me jump when the wife appears.
Yeah, felt that way about the tent scene. When
the
she's in
tent
there all
scene's
she's in
good.
there all by herself, all of a sudden she starts hearing this weird scratching sound because the sound design was really good in this film. So I'm like, what the hell is that? Because I didn't remember. And then when she got there, I was like, okay, what's going to be in there? What's going to be in there? Oh, her son. And then they panned down to his nasty legs, which was really well done. I think the practical effects that were done in this film actually looked great.
Yeah, I agree. But her story, as far as like what her vision was and stuff like that, was the hardest for me.
Was it?
Because like I was like, they know this is happening, right? At this point, I'm pretty sure they come to the conclusion that the ship is giving them nightmares, basically, right?
Yeah.
And like Lawrence Fishburne's character knows because he talks about it. Like, hey, the ship somehow knew it. No one else knew it. I never told anybody this, right? This lady knows her kid ain't on this ship. Her kid's on planet Earth. She's seeing this and she's gonna chase him. Come back, son. No. Stop it.
You're right. It's such a common thing that irritates me too. It's like, you're not. Your wife can't be on the ship. She's on Earth. Like,
Yeah.
she didn't just somehow show up.
But you know what? If the Event Horizon knew, she wouldn't run after the kid. She would have shown something. It would have shown her something that she would have run after. It played off their like darkest fears.
Yeah, but still, like,
I get it. It's
you know,
irrational.
like I'm gonna. Well, if I chase my kid, I'm probably gonna die. Like that's what I know. The ship's trying to kill me, but fuck it, I'll follow it.
Here's the problem I had with that whole thing. If we're bringing up that scene where she chases her kid and then she falls off the thing and falls down into the core and dies.
Oh, that looked brutal as fuck.
When
by the
Sam Neill walks in, he actually seems concerned that
Again,
she's dead.
Yeah, that is a problem that I have too. Is that he's so 5 seconds before he's talking to Lawrence Fishburne about we can't leave. This is my baby and it won't let us leave. We are home, and he walks walks backwards into the shadow. Like, oh come on! Like, and now goodbye, light. Like, he just walks away and. It just like leaves like that, and then all of a sudden he's back to
I thought that was
being this
really.
caring-
I thought that was really bizarre thing.
No.
But I kind of thought like
I have an answer.
He was going in and out of the possession.
Yeah, that's because that does happen. That's proven with Baby Bear.
Yes.
because he's in the
Right.
thing. He's like, they're not gonna show me things anymore. And
thing.
then he's like, where am I?
He didn't seem to give two shits even before he got on the ship. I get the impression that, like, first of all, the entire crew hated Sam Neill. And Sam Neill was like, these aren't my dudes.
Yeah.
This isn't my fucking crew. Like, I wish I was back at NASA 8 or whatever the fuck.
NASA 8.
I had Bill, who worked in data, he was my friend. These laymen will never understand me. That's how I get it. And they don't seem like there's a connection. And all of a sudden, he's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, you're right. That did feel like it just came out of nowhere. Actually, now that you've like positioned it that way, because he hasn't given a shit about any of these people, and also he's like, "Oh no, Claire,"
So-
whatever her name was.
Not everybody on the ship had a sequence where they were experiencing some kind of nightmare, or like not everybody did, right? Like Jolie Richards' character didn't ever
Cooper
have
didn't.
that.
Is that who you just calls it the pilot?
It's the
Of the Lois and Clark.
it's the woman, the blonde.
The blonde, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the blonde doesn't. The pilot of the Lois and Clark doesn't, and neither does Cooper.
I think the pilot and Cooper, the explanation being is that they weren't actually on Event Horizon. They were a lot of times they were out in space,
Yeah.
fixing the hull, or like on the ship fixing shit. So I imagine that was one of the reasons why they didn't see.
I mean, Jolie
Actually,
Richardson
that's
was in it
not-
the whole time, though.
That's not true though, Chris, because the blonde chick is in the room when the giant like
Blood.
demon paw hands are like pressing
That's
through
true,
the metal
yeah.
door.
but that was a
And the
weird thing because
blood's
everybody
true.
saw that one.
Yeah, yeah.
And the blood comes out and rolls all
the,
over.
the Shining scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he's pretty good at stealing stuff. That
He
Paul
loved
W.S.
Kubrick.
Anderson.
I'll give him that.
Yeah. Sure
Pretty
did.
good.
Like, what if I took all the Kubrick films?
And just put it as
Barry
one
Lyndon.
Yeah. I had to think of it. If I can only get Paths of Glory in here, we're set.
All right, guys, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about Event Horizon.
I closed the lifeboat hatch and I left him behind. I swore I'd never lose another man.
I've known you a long time. You never told me that.
That's just it, DJ. I never told anybody. But this ship knew about it. It knows my fears. It knows my secrets. Gets inside your head and it shows you.
All right, guys, we are back. We're talking about Event Horizon. I want to ask this question because with the recommendations for this film recently, what do you guys think makes this a cult film? What do you think makes Event Horizon a cult film?
It's weird because if you were to ask me, is this a cult film? I feel like I have to say yes.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's, I mean, 97. It's not way out of the ballpark. It's not too modern to be one. But I do feel like the only people that ever fucking talk about this film are like people that just like are diehard, like, it's so scary, man. Like, yeah, like it's so underrated is what I hear a lot. You know?
Yeah.
I think they might be right a little bit. Like Rotten Tomato score is like a 24, and like even the fan thing is like a 36 or something. I think it deserves a little bit more than that.
Pretty low.
I'm
yeah.
not going to say that I think that it's like a super, like, oh, it deserves a 90. I'm just saying that looking at it, watching this film, I've seen higher rated shit films out of the 90s than this film, which kind of does some interesting things and is genuinely scary. There's some genuinely scary things they do with sound in this film.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucks with your head.
I don't know if I have a kind of a hard time saying that this is a cult film. Like, I think it's just a film that kids in the 90s saw and thought was freaky.
You think it's a Dick Tracy?
Like, and that's
Dick Tracy's a cult film.
I'm not like discrediting the film in any way yet, but like I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, is there a rabid fan base for Event Horizon, or just some people think it's scary and remember it from their childhood?
If I say Event Horizon to a lot of people, they're like, "Oh my god, it's so." They talk about it like this is a fucking
masterpiece,
like a masterpiece. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
And now watching it, I mean I'm not trying to give anything away, but it's clearly not the case in my mind.
I sit on the fence with whether it is or it isn't a cult film. I'm not sure.
What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm probably going to agree with Chris on this one. Like the thing I would say has the appeal that why it has the appeal is because it is kind of a haunted house in space, which is kind of a cool concept and stuff, and it does have some nice jump scares and some pretty memorable visuals, whether those visuals were good or bad, whatever. But I don't know if I would quite call it a cult film. Like I don't know, man.
I see. I'm in the same boat with Mike. I think it is a cult film because there is definitely a fan base for this film, and I'll even go as far as just showing how much it made back. I mean, $27 million. It obviously bombed, so not a lot of people had maybe seen it at the time, but it also definitely found a life on home video or DVD.
Yeah.
Because this is one movie where you can bring it up in front of a group of people and be like, hey, Event Horizon, and then you'll see some people's eyes light up and be like, oh my God.
It's like, you never hear that about like, yo, Ghost Ship, and somebody's like, fucking so fucking good, Ghost Ship.
Yeah,
Fuck
true.
Yeah, Gothica. Like no one, those are like all these types of horror films that kind of came out in the 90s.
What's the one from the ocean? What was it? Deep something?
Deep Blue Sea?
The Abyss?
No, not Deep Blue Sea.
The Abyss?
It was with it was like the monster alien creatures on the cruise ship.
Virus?
Virus?
Oh, yeah.
No, not virus. Not virus.
They were monsters on a cruise ship?
Yeah, they were like globulin, gooey, oozy monsters on a cruise ship.
You're really not thinking of Abyss.
Deep. It's deep something. Deep. I'm gonna have to.
Is
look
it
this
just Deep? Are you thinking of just Deep?
The Deep.
The Deep?
I'm gonna Google it right now.
Okay, he's gonna Google that while we talk more about this movie. No, it's I definitely think it is a cult film though, because there is like people recommended it to us, and then I think that says something because it's and this is one that I didn't like. I picked it because it was like, well, that's odd. Like, let's go into this and see, is it a cult film? And I'm coming out of this thinking that it definitely is.
Like, what do you think would really make it that? Just the fact that it has some jump scares and some good special effects?
No, I think a lot of people like this movie. Its genre is not a huge genre, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's not, and this is probably
Deep Rising.
Deep Rising. Okay.
This is probably
that one. That clearly doesn't have a thing because we had to Google the shit out of it. Cult fan base.
This is one of the better like sci-fi spaceship horror movies. Like you got this, you got Aliens, you got Jason X.
Right.
Like, it's
well, you can't say Aliens.
Well, Alien.
As any of them.
Alien
I mean, I'm
Resurrection.
just saying that like if we're gonna say that this is even comparable, it's fucking it's fucking not. Like
no,
such a better film.
I'm just saying in the genre.
Right.
Like the genre is not that big of a genre. Like
no, it's not. It's not. And the metaphysical space movie horror is
I'm
not.
gonna say why this isn't a big genre is because it's very expensive to make a movie like this.
Oh, I agree.
You think it is?
Yes.
Absolutely. $60 million to make this movie?
No, but I'm just saying that like is it hard? It's one setting. It's a spaceship, and
no, I mean, dude, look at the sets that they had to build in this movie to make it look even remotely convincing.
I mean, I imagine that's true. I'm just saying, why can't they make a good one if Aliens exist and Alien exists, and it's not like this genre is undesirable to people.
Yeah, I just think it's incredibly expensive to design.
You think
something like this.
They would have done a better job with this movie if they had gone more route of the movie Alien, because really Alien, like it only had a few set pieces, but for the most part it completely existed on the Nostromo, what is it called? I forgot the name of the ship. But it was practical effects and it was like genuine like suspense driven and stuff. Whereas this one I feel like this movie would actually do better if it had less of the 3D CG effects of like shit floating around and stuff, I think it would have done a whole hell of a lot better because the practical effects of even the ship itself is solid. It looks great.
Yeah, it does.
I think one of the reasons why maybe this film didn't do well. First of all, like there's not really Sam Neill's the biggest star at this time. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like Lawrence Fishburne is the second, clearly,
Yeah.
but everybody else is just kind of like solid actors that are character actors essentially. Other than that, like the only other thing that I feel like this film would have been inundated by a slew of other horror films because this was kind of like the resurgence of like the isn't it like the mid 90s to like the early 2000s is like the resurgence of like the big budget horror film.
Yes.
And now we're back into like horror being more of an indie thing and lower budget films. Like we're not going to do these big fucking spectacles.
Totally.
Like 13 Ghosts, all the fucking like all of these
Haunted
films
Hill,
are kind of they're all these big budget horror films, and I feel like it gets lost in that. In terms of whether why this film maybe didn't do well in terms of like why it's not reviewed well, the last third of this film fucking just
It does suck.
it's horrible.
Yeah.
It just completely descends. All that freaky, crazy, creepy shit that freaks you out, all the suspense, it gets completely sidelined for what essentially is an action film.
Yeah, totally.
When you talk, well, that's what he does with any horror film that he's done.
Yeah.
Like Paul W.S. Anderson, it's literally any horror film that he's done that follows that same model of like great 2/3 and then the last half turns into an action film, or the last 3 sequels turns into an action film.
It's all
like
about the 2/3.
It's it's all about the 2/3. Like it's inside joke. That was really good. It seems like to be an MO that he has. And the set design was cool in this movie too, but also I felt like took away a lot from this movie. Right?
The set design?
The set design
Took away?
Yeah. Because
I don't think this movie would be as good without the set design that it had.
See, I disagree
I
with
think
that.
the set design is beautiful. I think the
Over the
CG
top.
that surrounds the set design is what makes it over the top and ridiculous.
No, see, because like the room where the drive is,
Yeah.
I was waiting for Xavier to roll in there anytime and put on
I'm
a
just
helmet.
looking for mutants.
Yeah, like put on a helmet and start looking for music. But it's
Music?
like music.
I'm just looking for a good Sunday mix.
He's on iTunes. He's on iTunes.
It's definitely, and you know what? The weird thing about that whole fucking
room is how dangerous it is. Spikes everywhere.
That's
What?
exactly what I was gonna say.
What
Like,
is the point of the spikes? Like that's no
I wonder
technological.
Maybe they're like antenna arrays?
That's what I'm guessing. Even everything Sam Neill says, like I feel like I'm in a meat grinder. I was like, well, those are the magnetic things that circle around. You couldn't make those flat. You had to make it like a fucking chainsaw. Like
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It was like some of the set design takes you out of it because it's like trying so hard to be horror.
Yeah.
And like it takes you out of the movie because you're like, well, that's just now you're just trying to make a scary Clive Barker like hell world inside the ship that's been to hell. Like
Turns out he was actually a consultant on pre-production for this film.
and
Clive
it makes
Barker.
sense. The visuals in that part of the movie, which is a huge part of the movie, screams Clive Barker. Did no one else get
No,
that? Like I did.
for sure.
It
yeah.
it definitely does. I guess it would make more sense to me if the ship came from hell and looked like that.
Yes.
Versus something that a sane human being would create, like architecturally.
Well, he never goes into detail of what's actually in the core. So maybe it is the puzzle box. Maybe Sam Neill discovered the puzzle box.
Well,
He's like, we could use this for
something-
warp drive.
Something that like caught me off guard was Lawrence Fishburne being able to outrun fire. Like
Yeah.
when he's running down that hallway and fire's like coming after him, I'm like, I feel like that would just be instant. Like it wouldn't.
Fire's definitely moving faster than
Yeah,
you can run.
yeah. I
Human
was
beings
like,
don't
okay.
run
Yeah, but
fast.
he made it sound like fire moves differently in space.
But there's gravity on
Yeah,
the ship, isn't
he
there?
talks about fire in a non-gravity in a vacuum. Well, I mean, first of all, there's no fucking fire in space. There's no combustion because there's no fucking air, so you can't have fire in space. Now, inside of a non-gravity ship,
that's what he was
that
talking
must
about.
be what he's talking about. Because
Yes.
I imagine that, fire.
Because there's oxygen, but there's just no gravity.
Wait a second, hold on. I feel like that doesn't make any
We're
sense.
getting
No, that makes total sense. Fire needs oxygen to live,
But-
it doesn't need gravity. It can
Right,
just.
Space
gas.
science on Cult Film
Yeah.
and Review.
No, they're certainly not floating
He
around
said it looks
in that
like
ship.
he said it looks like waves in an ocean. The way fire moves in zero gravity.
Did you guys?
But doesn't gas float So if you combust like a room, like it's just gonna go whoosh, like it's
Instant.
it's gonna come up and envelop anything that gas is in. I feel like gravity doesn't affect it so. What the fuck are we talking about?
Exactly.
Cody, move it on.
Do you guys have a favorite scene? Maybe a favorite death?
My favorite is the video. That's the one that always
yes.
me.
Yeah.
Is the video where it's
What's
like
going
they
on there?
finally they're tearing each other apart, I guess, because
They've been to hell.
they're all in that place. They all go to that place.
Okay, so that's actually happening when they're on the other side of where the black hole is.
Yeah, because like the video goes like, here we go, like, yeah, everybody's cheering, and all of a sudden just like cuts, and then they're all tearing each other apart. So it's like in that instance, they went through the black hole and presumably ended up in this place.
That was
And
certainly
just-
some Clive Barker looking shit in there.
Yeah, well, the I thought the most impressive thing about that is that when you go to that place, like what I learned is that you instantly learn Latin. And that you can speak it fluently.
The captain was speaking Latin before they left.
Before he went in there.
Eh.
What I noticed is that the moment that you go through a black hole, your clothes don't go with you.
Yeah.
Those come off immediately.
You know what? It's just like the time transporting thing in Terminator. You know, only organic
sense.
material can make it through.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But now is the ship organic? Because the life forces are.
Oh, see, they should have just appeared floating in space. Just
now
make it
we're going
floaty
back to trying to explain this movie in logical, like scientific terms. Which none of us are scientists.
I really enjoyed. No, speak for yourself. No, I really enjoyed the practical effects of this movie. Also, when they actually used practical effects, it was nice. It was like these are fucking scary, especially Sam Neill. Man, he had to go through some makeup hours, huh?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you talking about the opening scene when he first has that dream and then it's like flying at him and he's all cut up looking and shit?
Yeah, well, at the end too, when he's all cut up and then his eyes are shown shut, but he can see like a motherfucker.
Right?
Yeah. He's like, why do you think I'll miss?
Yeah.
Because your fucking eyes are gone.
Yeah, but he's a part of something greater now.
He's a part of it.
Then he
Michael.
proceeds to totally miss.
Yeah. and shoot out the window.
Yeah.
Of a spaceship.
Like, I'm just gonna shoot in this general direction and hope I hit something.
Yeah, I was like, that window ain't a little bit thicker.
Yeah, you think that shit would be definitely bulletproof at
like
least.
one pane glass.
You
there.
got a harpoon gun can go through
That's
it.
not exactly. Yeah, not only that, but that's not exactly how a nail gun kind of works, right?
No, actually, it was a harpoon gun. It was literally
But that
a
was
harpoon
what they
gun.
were using to
Yeah.
put the ship,
it was
the hull
it
back
was a
together.
rivet gun.
Yeah.
You know what? I've never used a futuristic rivet gun, so I couldn't tell you.
I just have a feeling it's just like if you fire that gun
powered?
off, I don't know. It was a weird thing. Anyways,
My mind was the tent scene. That really
Yeah, that's
creeped me
insane.
out, and it just was kind of. I don't know. I liked that it did play on, because they kind of showed you, her son is back home. He's obviously got a disability. This whole
Yeah.
thing, and then for him to be scratching inside this tent. I don't know.
It was
just
a creepy scene for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I already said what mine was. My favorite scene has been always will be like the green corridor thing with Sam Neill. I
Yeah.
just think it's just suspenseful. It's good.
Going to the scene you were talking about, Chris, I think her character is the easiest to latch onto for sympathy and basically have the most fear for, though, too, because you do just feel real bad for her. She's obviously going through some marital problems and then misses her son and then is dragged out by Sam Neill to go to hell.
yeah. I mean, well,
It's like this. She just wanted this isn't Friday the 13th or Nightmare. This isn't just teens wanting to have sex out in space.
Yeah.
yeah.
right.
I agree.
These are people with real lives.
I actually like the effects done with the guy hanging up, chained, hanged up. I don't know who was that again, the medic or something.
That was the medic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
Trauma.
that was pretty cool looking. And this movie was actually supposed to get an NC-17 rating. And I wonder if it was mostly because of the gore,
That's a version I'd like to see.
The gore at the end, I see. That's the thing too. Is it didn't test well with audiences because it was over the top gore, too much gore, and I'm like, what? The end scene, was it much longer than what it was? Where it's he's like, "I'll show you," and he grabs him, Lawrence Fishburne's head, and it's like them being tortured. They're still here. Where?
But everyone that he's showing is not dead yet, right? Don't they show people that are clearly alive? I feel like Cooper's in there and everybody's there.
Yep.
Like Baby Bear is still in there,
Yes.
and that guy's alive in a cryo tube or whatever.
Yeah, because basically the ship. What happened is the ship goes, "Oh fuck! I killed the people that can move me around. So now we got to go back, torture these guys that they're on my side, bring them back, and then I can float around." That's basically what I got from it. Like the ship
I really don't know.
needs a crew, and it didn't know it.
Why does the ship need a crew? It seems
To
like it
run
can
it.
control everything else.
Didn't you see
Should control emotions.
Star Trek The Final Frontier? Where what does God need with the starship? The devil did in this one. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to going back to what I'm trying to say. I don't know what the end game of hell is in this. Like it's either just a malevolent force that doesn't seem to need the humans, but surely isn't going to let them go because that's just how hell do. Or they do need one person. Like I need somebody alive to get me from point A to point B. I am not an omnipotent presence.
I got the feeling the whole time it was just trying to go back. That's all the presence was trying to do. Is trying to go back to that place. Like it got pulled out of its world and into ours. And like the whole point was to get Sam Neill to like turn the hyperdrive back on.
Right, but then one has to ask, which they never answer, where was the ship for 7 years? If it was just sitting in hell, why did it pop back into reality? Why did hell say, hey, you know what, let's go back?
Well, I mean, it could be 7 years our time. It could be one day their
Well,
time.
it would have to be.
You don't know this, but the drive is on a 7-year timer,
Oh, okay.
and every 7 years it just kicks up.
Doesn't matter where it's at.
Just has to go. All right, guys. So let's just rate this Mammer Jammer right now, and let's rate it. Let's rate it. Planet Neptune's the stormiest planet
Very stormy.
In the galaxy.
That's not true.
In
but
the movie.
In the movie.
I think it is like stormy as shit.
No,
on
I'm
that.
pretty sure Jupiter.
I think we've hit our allotment on this episode of making
shit up about space,
shit up about science,
I coulda
making
swore-
science
I coulda
assumptions.
swore
We can't
that
do it anymore.
Diamonds rain on Neptune. I could have swore I've read
Well,
that.
if that's the
before.
case, then Amy needs to go home.
Yeah.
To Neptune.
Back to chimps and
Yeah.
it would have been better with chimps.
Communications.
Been better with chimps. All right, let's start out with Mike. I'm real interested to see what Mike has to say about Event Horizon.
Okay, so here's the thing. I get why people like this film. I also get why me and my brother were like infatuated with this film for a long time, thinking it was like so scary, you know? But really, when it boils down to it, it's just like a really bad, poorly made film with some interesting, scary things added to it, right? So for that, I can't give it like a really bad rating. I can't give it like a 1. I think I'm going to give it like maybe like a 2.5. I think it's a relatively average film. It has some interesting things about it that I have to say, great. He took the best parts of a lot of other better films and kind of just jammed it into one film, and he didn't like really fail completely at that. So I'm gonna give it 2.5. What? Planet of Neptunes.
Yeah, Planet Neptune.
And 1/2 of a Neptune.
Chris, how many Neptunes?
A half Nep.
Yeah. I was, I was excited to go back and rewatch this because again, like you said, I remember, as a younger kid thinking that this was a super scary film. And I have to admit, it didn't scare me as much this time through. I did like it though. Overall, I don't think I liked it as much now as I did then. Some of the CG is really corny. And some of the acting didn't really work for me this time around, but the practical effects still worked. The set design of the ship was really cool. It was worth going back and watching again. I actually had a good time watching it with my girlfriend because she had never seen the film, and when we went into it, she was like, "Oh, a space movie, great." But then by the end of it, she was like, that movie gave me so much anxiety. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of nice to watch it through somebody else's eyes as well, which actually made the experience more fun. I'm going to give this a 3. I don't think it's as amazing as I once thought it was. But I wouldn't tell somebody not to see it simply because it obviously has an effect on new watchers. So, 3 Neptunes for me.
Kyle?
I'm going to agree with Mike a lot on this one. I'm going to give this probably, I guess, a 2.5. I kind of want to go 2 on it though.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to give it an extra half. I'm going to disagree with one thing that you did say. You said you kind of described it as like a poorly made film, but with some good scares in it. I don't think it's a poorly made film. I just think it's a boring film.
I want to clarify structurally. I mean, not like the set pieces are bad or anything like that.
I know what you. I know what you meant by that
Yeah.
when you said that, and I just want to say that story wise, I think it's kind of a boring film, and it deals with some really I think badass like concepts, like this concept of the ship that's able to create a black hole and it basically ends up in hell or wherever the hell. I think is a really cool concept. I think the movie was bogged down with the overuse of the CG. They're trying to embrace the new technology at the time, and if they had just gone hard and doubled down on practical effects, I feel like it would have been a much scarier film. But because they use CG, coming back to it years later, it just doesn't age well. So the movie's just going to get worse over time as CG nowadays gets better and better.
You think that style of CG will ever have like a resurgence, like a nostalgic look back,
No.
kind of like claymation does? Like
I don't.
Harryhausen.
No, I don't think so because the cool thing with like claymation or model work is
painstaking
is
time that it took to make
how
it.
good they can make it and how real they can make it. There's a certain aspect of when you're filming something practical, how the light bounces off and how you can light it, more dynamically. Makes it feel real, and for that aspect, the movie killed it. Did great,
Yeah.
and it did have one good jump scare that gets me every time.
The door opening.
No,
Oh.
the woman in the corridor, Sam Neill. Like I've said hundreds of times, that's like the only scene that really makes me scared. So I don't. What did I say? I was giving it
2.5.
Or maybe a 2.
I'll give
He's
it,
still in the
I'll
fence.
give it a 2.5.
Ooh, give him the half nip.
Yeah, I want the half nip in there.
And I will finally go now. No, I would have to give this. I'm probably going to be a little easier on it. I'm going to give it a 3.5, 3.5 Neptunes for me. I have fun with this movie. There's things I enjoy about it. To take my brain out and watch it, I do, and there is something about watching it with other people who haven't seen it before that are thrown off by it because I don't think they're expecting. I think they are expecting an alien movie, and then you basically get Hellraiser in space. Like,
I'll agree with that because I actually, going off Chris' point, I watched it with my girlfriend, never seen it before, and she was noticeably unsettled or upset most of the time because of the suspense it was building. So,
and the other reason I'm going to give it a 3.5 is because I hate Paul W.S. Anderson. You heard me, Paul.
Wow, he's calling him out.
Yeah, I'm not afraid. You've destroyed a lot of my favorite entities as far as films go, like Aliens and Predators and Resident Evil and things that I grew up loving.
Event Horizons.
Yeah, Event Horizons, Mortal Kombat. No, Mortal Kombat was good for its time.
We need to revisit that one.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm just not a big fan of his. But this is probably my favorite movie that he's done. And I think it's probably his best movie that he's done. And yeah, he does steal from a lot of other movies, but he steals the right things. And he does at least put them in a coherent story, the best that he can. And he does a pretty good job at it. The acting is pretty damn good in my opinion. The practical effects are awesome when they're there. And it does drag a little bit, but I don't think it drags that much. So I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think it's definitely one that if you haven't seen and you are a fan of horror and you're a fan of sci-fi, like go check it out. Definitely. It's not an easy genre to pull off, and I think he made a passable film. So 3.5. All right, guys, that's our show for this week. Remember to follow us on social media at CultFilm_review on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook. You can follow Kyle.
You can follow me on Instagram at cultfilm_Kyle.
You can follow Chris
on Instagram at cultfilm_Chris.
And you can follow Mike
at Mike Salustio on Twitter.
And you can follow me at VHS Collect on Instagram. Remember to go check out our YouTube page, first 50 episodes. Also, guys, if you're going to leave us a review for next week, we'd really appreciate it. It would be our 100th episode, so we want to try to get as many shout-outs as we can as possible. So please help us out. Go to iTunes, fill out a review, leave us 5 stars, and who knows, you may be on our 100th episode. You're awesome. And just remember, if you're going to join a cult, make sure they watch good movies. We'll see you next week.